There is a voice within you that speaks not in noise but in stillness. It is not your own, yet it sounds familiar. It whispers when the world grows silent. It nudges you when you doubt yourself, and it comforts you when all else fails. That voice is not the echo of your fears, nor the residue of your memories. It is the sacred whisper of the infinite, the divine presence that dwells in your subconscious mind, always guiding you toward the light of your destiny. You have mistaken this divine whisper for your own thoughts, because it comes clothed in your language, using the tone of your own mind. But understand this: every thought that strengthens, uplifts, or brings calm is not self-created. It is divinely transmitted. It is the language of God speaking through the medium of your subconscious mind. The same power that formed the stars and called life out of nothingness now speaks quietly within you, urging you to remember who you are, a vessel of divine intelligence. When you listen with the ear of faith, you begin to discern the difference between the noise of the world and the whisper of God. The noise condemns you, limits you, and reminds you of your failures. But the whisper reassures you, renews you, and reminds you of your divine nature. This whisper tells you that you are more than flesh and mind. You are spirit clothed in thought, a reflection of infinite potential waiting to be realized. The voice that speaks within you is not a random murmur of thought, nor a product of imagination. It is a sacred vibration flowing from the infinite mind, gently guiding your path toward purpose and fulfillment. Deep within the stillness of your being, beyond the chatter of daily worries and the echoes of past experiences, there exists a divine current of intelligence that seeks to lead you to peace, abundance, and understanding. This voice is not separate from you, but it is higher than the limited self you often believe yourself to be. It is the expression of divine consciousness, operating through your subconscious mind, shaping your desires, and revealing the hidden road toward your destiny. When you sense an inner nudge to act, an intuition to trust, or a sudden realization that seems to come from nowhere, it is not coincidence. It is communication from the infinite source within you. Every inspired idea that enters your awareness carries with it a spark of divine direction. It may come in the form of a quiet feeling, a sudden clarity, or an unexplainable knowing that you are meant for something greater. The mind that doubts and questions often tries to dismiss it, labeling it as fantasy or wishful thinking. Yet that quiet, loving whisper does not arise from fantasy. It is the language of divine intelligence seeking expression through you. The challenge for most people is not that they cannot hear the voice of guidance, but that they are too distracted by noise, fear, and overthinking to recognize its sacred tone. The whisper of God is never forceful, never loud, and never filled with anxiety. It speaks softly, patiently, waiting for the moment when you quiet your mind enough to hear it. When you begin to understand that the inner voice is divine in origin, you stop treating your thoughts as accidents and begin to see them as signals. Every thought of truth, peace, and inspiration is a message from a higher realm reminding you of your purpose. The ideas that come to lift you are not self-created. They are the universe responding to your silent prayer. You may think you are seeking guidance, but guidance is already seeking you. It comes in subtle impressions, sudden inspiration, and moments of deep peace that cannot be explained logically. This divine conversation is constant. It does not cease, but your awareness of it can fade when your attention is consumed by doubt and external noise. As you learn to listen to this sacred whisper, you begin to see that it knows far more than your intellect ever could. It leads you to people, opportunities, and circumstances that align perfectly with your inner calling. It warns you gently when your steps drift away from peace. It comforts you when you forget your strength and reminds you that you are guided by a power that never sleeps nor fails. To live in harmony with this voice is to live in divine alignment. To let the infinite mind express itself through your words, actions, and decisions. It is the realization that you are never without direction, never without hope, and never truly alone, because the guiding intelligence of God speaks to you from within every moment of silence and every beat of your heart. Your subconscious mind is not a mere storehouse of memories or hidden emotions. It is the silent temple where the infinite presence dwells and communicates. It is the sacred chamber of divine intelligence, always listening, always responding, and always shaping your life according to the images you impress upon it. When you quiet your conscious mind and withdraw your attention from the outer world, you can begin to sense the gentle rhythm of this sacred intelligence moving within you. It speaks not in words, but through feeling, intuition, and subtle impressions that come like whispers of truth. Every time you feel a deep peace about a decision or an inner assurance that something unseen is guiding you, it is your subconscious revealing divine communication. This is not imagination. It is the language of God expressed through the inner world of thought and belief. The subconscious mind has no reasoning power of its own. It accepts what the conscious mind believes to be true. That is why faith, imagination, and repetition hold such tremendous power. When you affirm peace, when you visualize success, when you believe in divine guidance, you are planting seeds in the soil of the subconscious, and that soil brings forth whatever you sow. The whispers of God come in the form of new ideas, creative inspiration, and intuitive nudges that gently steer you toward fulfillment. But when fear, doubt, and negativity dominate your thinking, the same subconscious power produces experiences that mirror those vibrations. It does not judge, it simply reflects. Therefore, your task is to keep your conscious mind in harmony with divine truth, knowing that the subconscious will obediently express whatever it receives. This inner chamber of the subconscious is a sacred meeting place between human thought and divine will. When you align your mind with faith and peace, the divine energy within begins to work miracles. It guides your words, orders your steps, and opens doors that logic could never explain. You may suddenly meet someone who changes the course of your life, find an opportunity that seems perfectly timed, or experience healing in body and mind without effort. These are not coincidences, they are the outworking of divine intelligence operating through your subconscious mind. The world calls them miracles, but they are the natural laws of the spirit at work. When you go to sleep at night, the conscious mind rests, but the subconscious never sleeps. It continues to absorb the last impressions of your thoughts, continuing the work of creation. That is why it is so powerful to end each day in peace, gratitude, and faith. For in those moments you are handing divine instructions to the infinite within. If you fall asleep in worry, you awaken to confusion. If you rest in trust, you awaken to inspiration. The subconscious mind, being the silent whisper of God, is always waiting for your command, and it fulfills it in perfect order. By understanding this truth, you realize that you are not separate from divine wisdom. You are a living expression of it. You need only still your thoughts, align them with love and faith, and the inner voice of the infinite will guide your every step with precision, peace, and divine purpose. Every uplifting idea, every sudden inspiration, and every moment of inner peace carries within it a sacred message. These are not random flashes of thought, but divine whispers meant to awaken the sleeping power within you. When a thought enters your mind that brings light to your confusion, courage to your fear, or calm to your turmoil, it is not merely your imagination. It is the voice of the infinite speaking through your subconscious. The divine does not shout or demand attention. It speaks in stillness in those quiet moments when you least expect it. These whispers come to remind you of your divine origin, to guide you back to truth when your conscious mind has wandered into the shadows of fear and limitation. Each inspired thought is like a spark from the fire of creation, illuminating the path that leads you closer to the divine harmony of your being. When you begin to recognize these inner impressions as sacred messages, your entire perception of life changes. You stop searching for external signs and begin to look inward, knowing that the wisdom you seek is already within you. Every true inspiration has a feeling of peace and assurance. It never brings anxiety or confusion. The false voice of fear may sound urgent, but the whisper of God is always calm, steady, and filled with love. It does not force, it guides. It does not pressure, it invites. When you honor that still small voice, you begin to realize that your higher self and the divine are in constant communion. The great ideas that have moved humanity forward, the inventions, the art, the healing discoveries, all were born from moments of stillness, when someone dared to listen to that sacred whisper within. If you reflect on the times in your life when things seemed to fall perfectly into place, when you felt an inexplicable knowing about what to do, you will see that the divine whisper was already leading you. It may have come as a subtle hunch, a gentle intuition, or a feeling of certainty that defied logic. This is the infinite mind of God expressing itself through your subconscious, working silently behind the veil of your awareness. When you act upon these inner impulses with faith, you align yourself with the creative current of the universe, and life begins to unfold with greater ease and flow. You become a co-creator, no longer struggling against circumstances, but harmonizing with divine order. To live by these whispers requires trust. You must learn to quiet your doubts, to silence the voice of reason that demands proof, and to follow the feeling of truth within you. The divine whisper will never lead you astray, for it is the eternal presence of love guiding you toward your highest good. The more you listen, the stronger it becomes. The more you trust, the clearer it speaks. And in time you come to understand that this inner guidance is not occasional but constant. It has been with you since the beginning, patiently waiting for your awareness to open. Every thought of peace, every vision of good, and every act of love is the divine whisper of God reminding you that you were never separate, that the same power that governs the stars also lives within you, guiding, creating, and calling you to rise into the fullness of your divine nature. Doubt and fear are not your original thoughts. They are intruders that disguise themselves as truth. They are echoes of the outer world that attempt to drown out the divine whisper within you. The voice of God that speaks through your subconscious mind never condemns, never shames, and never weakens. It uplifts, strengthens, and enlightens. But the voice of fear is loud, demanding, and impatient, and it seeks to disconnect you from your divine source. When you entertain thoughts of worry, unworthiness, or limitation, you are not hearing the truth of your being. You are listening to the illusions of the world that have been impressed upon your mind through years of conditioning. The divine whisper speaks of possibility, but the voice of fear insists on impossibility. The divine voice says, "You are guided," while fear says, "You are alone." The divine says, "You are capable," while fear says, "You are not enough." These two voices exist in contrast, and the power lies in your choice of which one to believe. When you begin to observe your thoughts with awareness, you can feel the difference between divine guidance and false limitation. Fearful thoughts feel heavy. They constrict the heart and cloud the mind. But when you are aligned with divine truth, your thoughts carry a sense of expansion and peace, even in moments of uncertainty. Fear may have entered your consciousness through past pain or external influence, but it has no power unless you give it attention. The subconscious mind receives and reflects whatever dominates your awareness, and when you feed it fear, it produces confusion and delay. Yet the moment you turn inward and affirm your unity with the infinite, the illusions begin to dissolve, and divine order starts to restore itself. The subconscious is like a mirror. It cannot reject what you believe, but it can transform when you choose to believe differently. To silence fear, you must recognize it for what it is, a distortion of truth. You must look it in the face and declare that it no longer has authority over your mind. Fear thrives on your attention, but faith dissolves it. When you remind yourself that the voice of God is the only real authority within you, you begin to separate from the false narrative of limitation. Each time you replace a fearful thought with a thought of faith, you strengthen your connection to divine wisdom. Over time, the whispers of peace become louder than the noise of doubt. This is not achieved through struggle but through surrender, through allowing the divine to speak louder than your fears. As you continue to listen to the whisper of truth within, you will notice fear losing its grip. It will still attempt to return, but you will no longer identify with it. You will recognize it as the shadow that disappears in the presence of light. The divine whisper within you does not argue with fear. It simply outshines it. And in the light of divine awareness, the illusions of doubt fade like mist before the rising sun. When you walk in this consciousness, fear becomes a messenger reminding you to return to truth, to the still voice that has always guided you. You will come to see that peace was never something you needed to find. It was already within you, waiting for you to stop believing the false voice of limitation, and to once again trust the eternal whisper of God within your soul. When your conscious mind aligns with the divine whispers of your subconscious, life begins to unfold with effortless grace. The conscious mind is the gatekeeper. It decides which thoughts are accepted as truth and impressed upon the subconscious. The subconscious, in turn, accepts whatever is impressed upon it and manifests it into reality, whether it be fear or faith, lack or abundance, doubt or conviction. When your conscious thinking harmonizes with divine ideas, when you choose thoughts of peace, trust, and certainty, you open the floodgates for divine power to express itself freely through you. The mind is like a bridge between the seen and unseen realms, and when it is purified of resistance, it becomes a perfect channel for divine manifestation. The whisper of God within your subconscious is always active, always seeking expression, but it requires your conscious cooperation. Your thoughts, words, and emotions are the language through which divine energy translates into form. Every thought of faith strengthens the connection between your conscious and subconscious minds. When you deliberately affirm truth, statements of peace, joy, and abundance, you are tuning your conscious mind to the divine frequency of the infinite. The subconscious then takes these impressions and brings them to life in your outer world. What you consistently think and believe becomes your experience, because the divine power within you can only work through the laws of your mind. If you fill your conscious awareness with fear and complaint, your subconscious faithfully mirrors that reality. But when you fill it with gratitude, love, and expectancy of good, divine order begins to arrange circumstances in your favor. This is not magic, but the natural operation of spiritual law. God works through you, not apart from you, and the bridge of communication is your belief. You must learn to guard your conscious mind with vigilance, for it is constantly influenced by the world's noise, the news, opinions, fears, and doubts of others. Every negative suggestion that enters your awareness is an invitation to disconnect from divine truth. The moment you accept limitation, you block the flow of divine energy. But when you respond with faith, even in the face of adversity, you keep the channel open for miracles. The conscious mind is like a gardener. It decides which seeds to plant. The subconscious is the soil. It will grow whatever is planted without judgment. Therefore, choose only thoughts that honor the divine whisper within you. Speak words of faith, act with confidence, and dwell on images of fulfillment. When the conscious and subconscious minds work together in harmony, you become unstoppable. The divine voice within begins to manifest in every area of your life. Relationships are healed, ideas flourish, and paths open that once seemed impossible. You begin to sense an unseen order guiding your steps and aligning everything perfectly for your highest good. This is the state of spiritual alignment where you no longer struggle or strive, but flow with divine rhythm. The infinite does not force. It unfolds naturally through your willingness to trust. As you train your conscious mind to think from divine truth, rather than from fear or past failure, the subconscious obeys with precision, creating a life that reflects the beauty, peace, and abundance of the divine presence within you. The moment you decide to align your mind with the divine whisper, you become the living expression of God's creative power, and all things begin to move in harmony with your highest purpose. True transformation begins the moment you stop resisting the inner voice of truth and surrender to its guidance. For too long, many people wrestle with their own divinity, questioning the very wisdom that seeks to lead them toward peace and fulfillment. The voice of God within you is not demanding. It is patient, loving, and persistent. It will never force its will upon you, for divine law operates through your willingness to listen and follow. When you finally quiet the noise of the outer world and release the need to control outcomes, you make space for divine instruction to rise to the surface of your consciousness. This surrender is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It is the moment you acknowledge that there is a power far greater than your intellect, guiding your every breath and shaping your destiny with infinite wisdom. Every act of surrender is an act of faith. When you stop resisting the whispers of your higher self, you allow the infinite to express through you effortlessly. Resistance comes from fear. Fear that you might fail, fear that you might lose, fear that you are not enough. But the divine whisper does not speak in the language of fear, it speaks in assurance. It calls you to trust when logic sees no path, to act when everything around you tells you to wait, to believe when doubt screams in your ear. The moment you obey that inner prompting, you enter into alignment with divine flow. Your life begins to reflect the order, beauty, and power of the unseen realm. What once seemed impossible begins to unfold naturally because you are no longer trying to force outcomes through human effort. You are being guided by the infinite intelligence that already knows the way. Transformation is not something that happens outside of you. It begins in the silence of your inner world. The world changes when your perception changes. When you stop identifying with fear, struggle, and limitation, the divine whisper takes center stage. It speaks through intuition, through peace, through moments of inspiration that seem to come from nowhere. As you follow these inner signals, you begin to experience life as a divine symphony rather than a battle. Every step becomes guided, every challenge becomes purposeful, and every delay becomes preparation. The old self, driven by control, doubt, and resistance, gradually dissolves, and a new awareness takes its place. You begin to feel that life is not happening to you but through you. This inner surrender allows divine power to operate without obstruction. It transforms your relationships, your health, your work, and even the way you see yourself. You no longer chase after peace, you realize you are peace. You no longer beg for blessings, you recognize that you are already the expression of divine abundance. The whisper of God was never absent, it was only drowned by the noise of fear and self-doubt. But when you finally surrender, when you allow that voice to lead, miracles begin to unfold quietly yet powerfully. You begin to walk with confidence, not because you control the future, but because you trust the divine wisdom that does. Transformation, then, is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you truly are, a vessel of divine intelligence, guided by the eternal whisper of God that has never stopped speaking within you.